What's up, horror fanatics? I'm Marcus. Welcome to our Sham 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel. In this video, I will be discussing writer Guy Busick's interview with comicbook.com as he shared some insight on how this version of Scream 7 came about. I will also briefly talk about the rumors that Scream 8 will begin filming in early 2026. Be sure to shoot the like button on this video, as you know it helps feed the YouTube algorithm. And if you are a new viewer of the channel, shoot that subscribe button as well for all content updates. Alright y'all, so on Wednesday evening, comicbook.com dropped this article detailing their interview with writer Guy Busick, where he would discuss being a part of the writing team for Final Destination Bloodlines, where at some point the topic of Scream 7 was brought to his attention. Busick would share some interesting details about the upcoming 7th Scream film, how the original plans changed when Melissa Barrera was fired by Spyglass, and how it led to this new version of the film becoming a Sidney Prescott-focused story yet again. So without wasting any more time, let's get into Guy's quotes from the interview. The original Scream 7 with Barrera and Ortega was a completely different thing, writer Guy Busick tells Comic Book in an interview pegged to Final Destination Bloodlines, which he also co-wrote. We weren't able to use what we had in the previous iteration for this one. We just had to start from scratch, which was a bummer. We were excited about what we have for that movie. We wanted to do one more core for a movie. Busick continues of the four friends introduced together in the 2022 legacy sequel Scream. We know the fans love those characters. We love those characters. We created those characters. I would love to see, in some universe, the continuation of their characters in some way. But we weren't able to port over the stuff from the other story. It was like, okay, here is what the universe dealt us. We always wanted to do a Sidney movie, and so it was like, alright, let's get into it, and why now, and why this one? So why bring Sidney back now, and why in Scream 7? After all, Gail told Sam and Tara in 6 she deserves her happy ending. I don't want to give anything away about the reason Scream 7 had to be a Sidney movie, because there's a really cool reason, Busick teases. In all these movies you have to ask, why now? What is the thing Scream is commenting on now? Scream is always in a conversation with the audience about the state of movies, the state of horror movies, and in particular, franchises. Busick seems to suggest that the meta horror franchise's 7th entry is a commentary on the trend of the legacy sequel, 2018's Halloween, 2022's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 2023's The Exorcist Believer, and 2025's I Know What You Did Last Summer, decades later sequels and quasi-reboots that brought back original characters and actors. 2022's Scream got in on the legacy sequel by reuniting the trio of Sidney, Gail, and Dewey for the first time since 2011. There is a really specific reason why Sidney is in this movie. I will say there is a reason, and we were happy with it when we cracked it, Busick says. We went to Nev Campbell and said, this is why. This is why Sidney now. Nev was like, oh, I get that. I pitched Kevin Williamson this first too. He got it, and then I pitched the studio. I came up with the story with my co-writer on Scream 5 and 6, James Vanderbilt. Busick credits Vanderbilt with the idea of bringing the Meeks Martin twins into Scream 7 without the other half of the core four. I believe it was James that came up with it. I want to give credit where credit is due, but it was an organic way why they would be in this movie, Busick adds. I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say it's through Gail. She's the connective tissue in 5 and 6, and she's in this. New York was obviously a big part of that. She bonded with those four, and there's a reason why these two come to this town where the action is happening. Whether that town is Woodsboro, California, or the as yet unnamed town where Sidney is in hiding, Busick couldn't say. It's not New York, he offers. I don't want to be the one to spoil where it is. It is an unspecified amount of time after 6. I might get contradicted by other people, but in my mind, more than 2 years. I would say at least 2 years. It could be 2 years, but I would say 2 years plus. Okay, so the first thing that I will speak on in regards to Guy's quotes is the obvious fact that the version of Scream 7 that we are getting now wasn't the initial plan. As we are all well aware, Scream 7 was supposed to be the final chapter in a 3-part trilogy for the core 4 characters, Samantha Carpenter specifically. However, what really caught my attention with Guy's quotes on the subject matter is the fact that he still hopes for the characters to get a concluding chapter to their story, by saying I hope in some universe we get a continuation of their story. I feel that part of the quote is quite telling because we all assume that in Scream 7, one if not both of the twins will die. So in my opinion, I feel there is a chance that the twins will not die in this movie, since Busick would love for the entire core four to be featured one more time in the franchise if he continues to serve as the writer for future projects. With him mentioning in some universe, this leads me to believe that if we get the Kirby Reed spinoff that has been rumored, and if a bunch of other things fall into place, like Gary Barber stepping down as an executive for Spyglass, for example, then they could decide to bring Melissa and Jenna back as the Carpenter sisters and the core four characters back together as a whole in some shape, way, or form, and conclude their story within the spin-off film. When it comes to the quote that Sidney is back for a specific and cool reason, I feel this is obviously tied into the fact that Stu Macher will be returning in this film. We know that Guy Busick, much like many of us, is a Stu truther. He believes the character never died, has always wanted to do a Scream film where he brings the character back into the fold. So I feel since he is at the helm in regards to writing this new story, that he, along with Kevin Williamson, are getting to do the type of Scream film with the character that they've always wanted to do. When you take into account Neve Campbell's comments last year about the idea for Sidney to be somewhat of a Laurie Strode from Halloween 2018 type of character, and the quotes here about Scream 7 doing commentary on all of the legacy sequels that have and are still coming out, it makes a lot of sense for the character to deal with a killer that is from her past, just like Laurie Strode had to in both Halloween 2018 and in Halloween Kills with Michael Myers, before Halloween Ends saw the character have a new villain in Corey Cunningham to focus on. Stu Macher's character could be Sidney's version of Michael Myers for both Scream 7 and 8 if they decide to play into the idea of his DOA status through 2 films. When it comes to the twins being brought into the fold for the 7th film, Busick credits 5 and 6 co-writer James Vanderbilt with coming up with an organic way to bring them in, with Gale Weathers being a connected tissue, as Busick likes to phrase it, for their return. Now, I must admit I am at odds with this because I was never a fan of James Vanderbilt's writing style in the last 2 films. You guys are well aware of that. Now, I talked about in my theory video for how they could write the Carpenter sisters out of 7's story. I mentioned how rumors suggest that Chad and Mindy work with Gale, Chad being her cameraman and Mindy serving as a reporter. I also mentioned the fact that though Gale was present for 6's events, she really didn't have that much interaction with the twins themselves. She was mainly interacting with Sam and Tara. So it's going to be interesting to see how the relationship with Gale evolved after the events of Scream 6. Given the organic nature hinted by Busick, I feel their involvement may have something to do with their Uncle Randy. I pitched the idea of Ghostface using an AI-generated version of Randy to call and possibly toy, or in this case, lure the twins to go with Gale to Indiana, where their new killing spree takes place, which would be an organic way for them to be involved with these events when you think about it, because Randy himself is a legacy character, and this is going to be a legacy sequel far more than what Scream 2022 was, given all the past characters that are returning in this film. Now, what I find interesting about Busick's comments when it comes to the time jump for the film is that he states it would be 2 years, possibly 2 years plus. Why that is interesting is because the initial rumors stated that the time jump would be closer to 5 years, which would have set the events in Pinegrove for Scream 7 to the year 2028. But with Busick saying that the time jump would be 2 years plus, it now leads me to believe that 7's events will pick up 3 years after 6's events, pitting the timeline directly in the year 2026, which is not only the year that the film releases, but it also marks the 30-year anniversary of the original film's release. And as an extra added nugget, if 7's events does pick up 3 years after Scream 6, then that means Sidney's daughter Tatum, if she is 16 years old as it is speculated in this movie, she was born in 2010, 1 year before Sidney returned to Woodsboro for her book tour in 2011 during Scream 4's events. Though we do not see an engagement ring or wedding band on Sidney's finger or even get a mention of a companion in the 4th film, they could write it as Sidney and her now husband Mark Evans weren't married yet at the time, but had Tatum before tying the knot. Or, as an unforeseen twist, Tatum may not be Mark's daughter at all, with Sidney giving birth to Tatum before they ever even met. Laurie Strode in Halloween 2018 was mentioned to have multiple failed marriages. If Sidney is going to mirror that character even to a slightest bit of an extent, it's not impossible to think that Sidney could have had a failed relationship herself with Tatum's real father, which would explain why Tatum's last name would be Prescott if it is not going to be Evans in the film. Now, I know in Scream 4, it is implied by Sidney's publicist, Rebecca, that the issue with Sidney is that she doesn't get laid enough, but they could easily pass this comment off as Rebecca not knowing Sidney well enough to know that she had a child. Speaking of Pinegrove, I do find it quite strange how both Busick and the article writer basically play into the notion that the location for the film is unknown when it is known, through set photos provided by my good friend Craven Something Scary and others. This kind of makes me think, is the location of Pinegrove, Indiana, a fictional setting within the movie itself? Meaning, could we be seeing a new stab film playing out during the events of the movie, much like we saw in Scream 3? I know Mark Consuelos' character is supposed to be playing a reporter named Robbie Rivers, who not only rivals Gale Weathers, but he also has a show titled Pinegrove with Robbie Rivers. Could it be that his character is playing himself in the new stab film as an on-screen TV presence similar to Cotton Weary in Stab 3 Return to Woodsboro? I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but I think it's an idea we should consider at the very least until we get more details for the film. On to the rumor that Scream 8 will be filming in the early half of 2026. If the rumors turn out to be true, then this plays into my theory that we will be getting 2 Scream films in 1 year, Scream 7 in February and Scream 8 in mid-December, doubling down on the notion that we will get 2 Scream films in 1 year to honor the 30-year anniversary of the original film's release. With that said, I feel guys' comments in this interview, without really spoiling anything, still gave us some things to ponder over, so it definitely does get me even more excited for the film. I will say that I hope that the trailer, when it is released, or the first teaser even, is as revealing as Guy was here in this interview, because I want this movie to feel like a true mystery going into it, no matter how many Easter eggs and rumors we get along the way. If I had to choose the quotes that was truly eye-catching to me, it would have to be the quotes where he doesn't try to give up the location of the film's events when we already know this through set photos from months ago, from when the film was being filmed and afterwards. It was definitely an odd remark from Guy that kind of makes me think there could be something that lies beneath the surface in regards to Pinegrove, Indiana's setting and how it will be presented in the film. And the other quote would have to be about his willingness to do another Core 4 focused Scream movie, leaving the door open for Chad and Mindy to possibly survive over the course of the next 2 films. But alright everyone, that is it for the Scream 7 update video. Leave a comment down in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts on everything that I discussed here in the video. What do you make of Guy Busick's comments? What do you think about his willingness to write another Core 4 centric Scream film in the future? Could this save Chad and Mindy from being killed off in Scream 7 and in Scream 8? What do you think the cool way to bring Sidney back that Guy mentioned in regards to the story is? And let me know, what do you make of him not trying to reveal the location of the film's events, even though we'd seemed to already have it months ago? Don't forget to drop the video a like and be sure to follow me on all of my social media platforms. Thank you all for watching.